Hey guys, you're watching Two Peas in a Podcast, and this time it's just one pea in a podcast because unfortunately Shay had a bit of a scheduling conflict, which has made it that I'm the only one here to do this interview. We have Heather Schmid, who is an American Grammy member, international recording artist, classically trained singer, musician, lyricist, television host, spokesperson, and philanthropist. Wow. Well, this is exciting.
Hello, good to
Thank you for
see
taking
you.
the time and for doing this interview. Really, really, really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so glad.
How are you on this fine morning?
I'm good. I'm doing good today. It's finally spring here. I live outside of Boston, and so it's been warm and sunny, and everybody's feeling a little happier.
That's
Because
good.
we get so much snow, and in the winter we're like so cranky around here.
That's really fun actually, because I'm obviously based in the UK, and we've got nice looking weather, but it's not very nice on the temperature. It's very deceptive. You go, oh, t-shirt weather, and you go outside and you're like,
Well,
no, it's not t-shirt weather yet.
chilly.
Sat in the garden with a coat on and beer or something.
Oh yeah, and it was raining earlier today, so you're comfortable with that weather, right?
Yeah, very used to that weather. We moan about it a lot, but we can't do without it.
That's right. That's right.
Just one of those things. So early, I was just going through your career. Really, I spent the whole day researching you and really enjoying your story from where you began and your where you currently are and stuff. So let's just go back to sort of your roots. Really, you've had an extensive musical career dating back to 2003. But prior to your first album, you earned a scholarship at Boston University, where you were classically trained as an opera singer, composer, and pianist. What was it about classical music that you just absolutely loved?
Oh, yeah. I loved how smart it was, honestly. I grew up in a small town in Connecticut, Marlborough, Connecticut. And we were lucky to have a really good music program. We had awesome elementary and middle school and high school, great fun foundation in music. And so, I was exposed to a lot of different styles of music. And we were near the Hart School of Music, which is in Hartford. And it's a really great opera school, basically, and classical music training school. And so as we all in high school would get better and better, we would find the Hart School of Music. And I had an amazing opera teacher, Mildred Coleman, who was she was a faculty at that. And she helped me to understand how cool it was and how, hard it was. As I was in high school, I was really driven to try new things and try hard things and really, into delve into something really deeply. And opera music and classical music is that. It's this collaboration of sophisticated elements. You have a full orchestra, you have a cello player playing this beautiful, intricate line, and then you have the violinist who they all meld together, and then you also get to be in that. And it's this beautiful tapestry all flowing together that that sounds beautiful, but it's also smart,
Mm.
as you're listening to it. And then as I, researched and got into it, it also really helps your brain. I realized that I was kind of tending to it to just chill out, help to chill out. I'm like an overly excited person. I'm going 1,000 places. And so it helps me just chill out. And I see now on Spotify, everybody, uses classical music to study. It's it does really help to chill out.
Yeah, I remember when I was back at high school, just revising for exams and things. Classical music was something that I would normally turn to, not even realizing that actually part of that was you mentioned sort of scientific aspects of it that help your brain sort of function. It just, I think partly my acknowledgement really was the fact that if you listen to what would be regular music, it has lyrics, and you start listening to that or singing along. But classical, it's kind of an emotional journey, isn't it? And I think most of what I grew up with, although it wasn't classical in the sort of classical sense, it was more like movie scores and that kind of classical area.
Oh,
So there's
great. Yeah.
two different genres. Although it's still part of classical, it's still very different sounds. So that was kind of like my childhood, really, classical
Oh,
music.
neat.
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat. Like the Star Wars soundtrack or
Yeah,
Um,
I am still a big Star Wars fan.
Me
So,
too.
and
Me
you, oh,
too.
brilliant. What's your
Yes.
favorite film?
Well, I mean, I was totally into Mandalorian. Like, oh, I have a baby Yoda. He was sitting right here on my couch. And baby Yoda
Brilliant.
has lived so much in our lives. Like, I really liked the new stuff. But yeah, the Star Wars came out when I was really little, the first ones. And so it was such an epic, like monumental experience for us. And it was so formative. But the movie score is incredible and incredibly important to the storytelling, you know.
For sure, yeah. I
Um,
think what John did with that score just completely changed cinematic like movies from that point on, didn't it? Really
yeah,
brilliant.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I felt like I'm showing my age a little bit there, but I sort of I got onto Star Wars when the first three was already out. So my stepbrother sort of lent me the videos, and I was like, "What's this all about?" Then and I started watching it. And I just got hooked straight away.
Yeah, you didn't even know about it.
No, I
Yeah.
was a special edition kid, me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, it came out what in the 80s? It was really, yeah.
77 was the first one.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
We'll just say 80s, it's just easier.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you're very,
80s.
yeah. I mean, it was really impactful, and I think about how, like, everybody watching The Mandalorian, like, I watch it with my son, and we're like experiencing the same thing that we experienced when we were little.
Yeah, it's magical, isn't it?
It is really magical, and the music is so integral to it and so important to. Like, I'll see him; he's 9 now, and he sings those melodies. Just like throughout life and day, like he hears that melody and it just sticks with him.
That's a sign of a good score, isn't it? Having a great little melody or a rhythm that you can just sort of like sing along
Especially
to.
classical music,
Yeah,
right? Like you never know which is the part is the melody. It's not so obvious like in pop music.
that's true. Yeah, very much so. Who was your inspiration when you were growing up then in terms of classical?
Well, so our music program in high school, we got to do a lot of competitions, and so we were exposed to a lot of different styles of music. I remember finding out about Kathleen Battle. She was like the diva's diva of opera stars, right? And she was like throwing stuff type of diva, like like the Met fired her like twice, and then they brought her back because she was so incredible, and then they fired her again because she's so hard to work with. She had this incredible voice, like just like really light and expressive, but so impressive. She played all the Cherubino. She plays these cute little fun roles, but she's so intense, and what a great actor. So I remember being like, oh, that is so, and it's so difficult music. So I remember I was really in love with her. I also really I loved Whitney Houston. I loved Kelly Clarkson. Her album, that first album, was incredible. You know, of course, Taylor Swift I loved. I really grew up on pop music and classical music as like two different worlds that were like, depending upon my mood and or what I was doing, going between the worlds like that.
Yeah, I was going to say because I was reading over your history again, talking about the your sort of entrance to the music world. Really, following the sort of Miss Millennium International pageant, you became known as sort of the pop dance artist during that time. So, what was the change between that? You started off sort of trained in classical and sort of the shift into pop. How did that happen? And did that shift in genre get influenced by that pageant at all?
Well, it was influenced by the location. We were, me and my friend decided to, once we graduated BU, we were going to go down to Vegas and we are going to compete in this Miss Millennium International pageant. We didn't really, it's just our fun thing. We were like, it's going to be so fun. And growing up in Connecticut and also at school, doing pageants was a way to sing opera. Because it's a way for us to like increase our performances and really get our stuff together and make college money. So
was that your main reason for doing that then? Was just to sort of build that platform for you?
Well, it was like we knew what it was like. I had done pageants since Mrs. Coleman had all of her students doing pageants, honestly, the ones that could do them, because that was a really good way to hone your performance skills and your, speaking. And, she understood that it was a good way in Connecticut for people, we were from a small town in Connecticut. So I had seen that pageant in Vegas, and I hadn't been to Vegas before, but I was like, I know this world. Like, I know this world. And it was like a celebration. We weren't taking it seriously at all. And so we just competed, and I won. And when I won, they were like, okay, it was a year contract in Las Vegas. And it was a new car, and it was, they were trying to figure out what to do with the performance part of it. They wanted it to be a beauty queen thing. Like they, do the conventions, do the car shows. And I was like, oh no, girl. No, girl.
That's just not me.
No, it's not going to happen. So we came to an agreement where we, put our minds together, and, Vegas, they knew what was good for them with commerce wise. They're like, she's not going to sell the car as well. She's going to be passive aggressive. It's going to be hard to deal with. Let's understand that where the money is going to work in this. And if Vegas knows anything, they know that, right? So they were like, we came together, and we had they had some friends who were dancers, and we just put together this show. And the show was 6 dancers, and it was like Euro pop dance music. And some of the music was my music that I had recorded, and others was, covers and stuff. And I would open for shows at the MGM Grand and different casinos, and they're awesome. There were so many theaters, and then we had a mall tour. Basically, we hooked into Simon Malls, and we were doing this show every Wednesday in Vegas, and then we would do like a weekend show at Simon Malls, and it was awesome, exciting, and terrifying for an opera singer in Vegas. Like, what have I done? All at the same time. It was really incredible.
What a fantastic experience that must have been, though, eh?
It was intense.
Yeah.
It was intense. I learned how to self-advocate. Let's say that. That was the year I learned how to speak my voice, or like to speak what I felt was right, and because that line gets really iffy quickly if you don't establish your boundaries. At that time, this was, a while ago. So, but it was a really great experience now that I think about it, but also really growing,
Yeah.
How to put a show together, how to tour, how to, deal with difficult managers. There's so much.
I think that's something that a lot of artists need to kind of get as well. Because just funny enough, quite recently, there's been a UK artist who I think was the product of an X Factor one of the years. Okay. And it's just coming out now that the way that she was treated, the way some of her competitors or, the competition were treated, the stuff they were made to sign just to be on the show, and basically just really like terrible things that ordinary jobs would never get away with. So why is it okay to do that? So she's becoming sort of like the voice of everyone else now, trying to have a full investigation into the rules and regulations and get things changed, and just really support fellow artists, really. So the fact that you kind of had your own mind back then and kind of knew what was right, what was not right, and had your own voice, I think is just fantastic.
Well, it's a really hard place for women, young women singers to be in, because you're so desperate for success. You see it right in front of you. And these men, they're all men, that are, in my case, they were all men making decisions on your behalf. And you're young and impressionable and so like agreeable. I'm a naturally agreeable person. And you really can get yourself, and you do get yourself into really difficult situations. They, to this day, own all of that music that I wrote. I didn't think or know to try to keep my rights. I didn't, and it was bad music anyway. So really,
yeah, you can keep it.
You can have it.
Yeah.
And so but it was such a learning experience as a woman by myself in Vegas is extremely intimidating. you become much more suspicious. Like, okay, wait, what is behind this? I have to go and I have to read that paper and I got to really actually look at it. And it's all of that stuff.
So moving forward a few more years then, you went to China. You were the first American to perform for the Miss Tourism World Pageant. How did you land that gig?
That was an epic gig. It was so fun. How did I land that gig? That was networking. That was a networking thing. That's the thing that, if we're doling out advice, that's a real pillar of this industry is, I started performing in China to open 5-star hotels. So, for example, there was a new Four Seasons coming into Hunan province, and they do these amazing, gorgeous, elaborate shows. And I was the, banquet hall. They transform it into this beautiful pyrotechnic, amazing show. But it's essentially the ballroom, And so I would do these ballroom shows, and they were so easy. It was like 2 shows, and people were just so happy and sort of drunk, and but it was a great show. And then we would tour all of that local area because they were smaller, emerging market. And it was a blast. So I had gotten known throughout the booking agents, of which I don't know if maybe there was 20 at the time. And they knew that I was put on a good show, that I was fun to be around, that, that I was going to be easygoing enough to deal with, and that the show was good. And so they told each other, and so that was kind of how that happened. This agent was doing the Miss Tourism World Pageant with the TV show, with the live show, and also this beauty pageant, which was in the most beautiful. It was in Wugong Mountains. The show was placed in the base of Wugong Mountains. So
wow, sounds amazing.
And they built a full 20-story waterfall that was the back of the stage.
What?
And the water just flowed, and they had a moat in the front and lights, and epic. Such
that sounds amazing.
And then all of us girls, they were so cute, and all the little beauty queens, that was my world before. So I really, so we would do a rehearsal on this stage in the mountains with the water flowing. And then we would go climb the Wugong Mountains. With beauty pageants, they have a local event. You have to do all the fun local events. And so we went to the Wugong Mountains, and me and 40 young, beautiful, not physically able to get to the top. None of us could get to the top of that mountain. What is this? And we were really suffering, but we climbed the mountain, and then it was in an area that had a lot of hot springs. So so we would do our rehearsal, everything would be going great. I was, the musical performance. It was not a hard gig at all. And then we went to the local hot springs, and it was the water that comes out from the earth, and they were so fun. So fun.
It reminds me of Iceland a little bit, because they've got a lot of hot springs over there as well.
Yes, there's an area they did a wonderful job researching where to put the pageant, but it was a really beautiful area. There was a lot of natural hot springs, and all of these cool resorts were there where you would come and then you'd drink papaya juice, and it was so nice. It was really fun.
You give me travel envy again now.
Oh man, I have so much. That's why I'm literally telling you this story. I have so much of that. I'm watching all the travel shows, and
I think everyone's watching travel shows. I mean, I'm just looking, I've got before I started really doing YouTube, I did a lot of travel vlogs just because they were for my own purpose to look back on in years to come and just see what I got up to and with my kid and all that kind of stuff. So it's like a little memento, my legacy, if you like. And I have a whole shelf that's dedicated to all these DVDs just stacked right across. I'm like, yeah, fancy watching this one today. It's
What's
great.
Your favorite? What's your favorite spot?
Oh, it depends on my mood. Not as a rule, but I've always thought I would never go back to the same place twice, because I think, you got money to spend. You want to go and see different places.
Absolutely. I am with you.
Having said
so which one was the most epic?
I think Iceland is one of my favorite places. It's just so diverse, and depending on what time of year you go, that
Yeah.
same place that you visit can look completely different. So it's just really absorbing all of that. But also
Oh,
the Philippines as well. I have quite a big heart for the Philippines because a lot of my
yes.
audience is based out there. That's the same with Ria and Jonah and everyone else. So it's just nice. It's like a second life out there. So I get to kind of mingle with people, meet some artists, go and see the islands, and it's
Oh
just
my God.
another kind of trip entirely. So I think Iceland and the Philippines are two of my favorite places to go. Yeah,
Nice. Okay,
yeah,
good. Those are on my list
yeah.
for
Definitely
sure. I
try
haven't
it.
been to either of them, and I've always wanted to.
Oh, you should definitely do it. I think the Philippines has a massive music culture
Philippines.
as well. So if you want to
Oh,
try and
amazing. Amazing.
yeah,
Yes.
we'll try and get you out there.
Okay, Ria. Okay, Ria.
Yeah, exactly. So back onto China. You had a TV show called The Ambassador, which was well received by critics and viewers. Tell us more about the show.
Yeah, The Ambassador was a travel show, which based on the performances in different parts of the country and more rural, up and coming cities in China. And it was based off, they had a travelogue show that on their English channel. And so the crew would basically follow my shows. And because I was performing in these interesting cities and doing fun things, and every show I do benefited a local charity. So we would go into a lot of times a local orphanage, and I would harangle the new the new hotel owner to give money to the charity. And so we really, it was a really nice way to share with all of China some of the different charities, the wonderful charities that were happening in China. Now, having said that, I'm not sure that the communist government really loved all of that exposure.
Mm.
So it was a 1 year, short-lived TV show, which I loved, and people did really like it. But they loved it for a year, and it was the kibosh. And I did hear that, we went to Hebei, is a city in northern China, and we went to a village, a smaller village that was affected by the AIDS crisis and weren't ever able to get the antiretrovirals. So there, we may have stepped into some things that the communist government, CCTV is a national TV station. And in a lot of ways, they really do keep close tabs of things.
Mm.
And so that got it was good while it lasted.
Yeah, and you did manage to do some outreach programs to the charities, so that's always good.
It was good, and it was sort of following what I was doing anyways. But I was really glad. That was my favorite part, to be able to share with a wider audience, because that brings more people donating and volunteering and yeah, exposure.
Yeah. So I've read a quote from you stating, and I'm paraphrasing, that music is a universal language. It cuts through political unrest, cuts through language, cuts through the dramas of the day, and connects. Music means more to you than just a good beat. So how do you use music to connect with people?
In like a billion ways, we all do this. We all do this. With traveling through China, this is where I really understood that music was more than just entertainment. It was connection. It was building bridges. It was breaking down barriers. I because I had an opera background, I was really good with languages, so I learned Mandarin songs, and I would be singing them for fun when we were going through the orphanages. And it was a really different experience when I sang a song that was so close to them. It's not going to be meaningful for me to sing one of my, pop songs in a different language and, in a different style of music. But singing a song that they grew up with, that they really enjoyed and loved, it connects. It shows that you care. It's a connection.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I traveled, the more that kept that just kept coming up, and especially with the TV show, was talking about music from so many different cultures in China. It's such a massive country, and exploring the indigenous music and exploring the rhythms, and the history is unreal. And so those are the ways that it was like, well, I really understand that music is fun and entertaining. I was, I was a beauty pageant queen, right? Like, it's just entertaining. But as you get more into it, you see that the connections are made, and you bring, you bring happiness, you bring joy, you make connections with people, and you help, one faction understand about another faction, and you yourself get rid of that, or try to get rid of that, like, American sensibility that nothing is past your borders.
Mm. Was it difficult to learn Mandarin, or particularly like the pronunciation on certain lyrics, I guess?
我是不好不好
Fluent, brilliant.
It's like singing, because there's the tones and the singing tones. Actually, it's a little bit easier for me because I'm used to learning the tones and writing, when things are supposed to go up and when they're, so. And it's also easier. They say that if you want to learn something, learn it to music, like the ABCs. When you're teaching your little toddler the ABCs, you teach them to music, because how would you remember that sequence of 26 letters? Like, it's easier to sing a Mandarin song than it is to, like, learn it.
That's a good point, actually. I was picking up a Filipino song, and there are words that I can, in front of me, I can sing because I know how it's pronounced, because I've heard the original artist sing the song. But just to speak the word, I don't know if my intonation's incorrect, or the way I might hold on to a particular letter. I don't know if that's right, because obviously in songs you can elongate particular words. I'm just so like, right. I can sing it to you, but I can't say it.
That's so interesting. Yes. And that came up when I was doing, when I do Urdu songs and Pakistani songs, I do have, you listen carefully for, you have a native speaker help you to be able to, like, in the recording studio. I have always someone because if you go, hello, and you're like, why are you saying it like that?
Yeah.
It's exactly the same way.
Yeah, that must be strange.
Yeah, it happens. It does happen.
You mentioned Pakistan then. So as I understand it, you are married to a Pakistan. Is he Pakistani national, or is he? Yeah.
He's a native of Pakistan. Yes, Rafi and I were both learning how to meditate at BU. So we thought we were gonna, like, be spiritual and relax and whatever, and so yes, we met at BU. He was finishing his medical school, and I was in opera school, and he was this cute little fun guy who loved to travel, and he, like, talked a mile a minute like I did, and we had so many similarities. It was like instant soulmate. Rafi and I.
So you connected not just in sort of meditation, but spiritually kind of as well.
Yeah, because, we were both young and, like, seeking out these new spiritual paths. And also, he's a really big travel lover like I am, and exploring different cultures. And he loves languages. He speaks 5 languages. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, he's a very interesting guy. He went to medical school in Russia and speaks, learned all medicine in Russia, and then came to the US.
That's got to be so hard.
It was really hard. Yeah, he had to relearn everything into English and pass the medical exams in the US, which he did.
Wow! Well, congratulations.
Yeah, it was no joke.
That's amazing. I'm still trying to get my head around just, well, English for one, but a lot of other languages. Just I can pick up a few bits here. It's always, maybe, I don't know whether you find the same thing as well. Well, obviously you don't, because you have multiple languages as well. But like for British people, because a lot of the European continent do speak English, although they have their own languages, we find it easy just to accept that they'll speak English back. And you try, and if they can't, you just sort of try and figure out a way of communicating that gap, really. But British people were quite lazy when it comes to languages.
Oh my, what are you talking? You're talking to an American. Nobody in the world thinks Americans are great linguists and ready to, like, learn everyone's languages. Like, yeah, it's really, that's another thing with, with cultures. If you spend that extra time really getting down, like 10 really good phrases, like ordering food, saying hello, like the basic ones, it goes a long way. And then of course, pull out Google Translate.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really great.
It's great for many languages, but Filipino isn't one of them. Google
No?
tends to no, it trips over itself quite a lot. Sometimes it doesn't even translate anything because it's just like I don't understand any of these words. Well, thanks, Google.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the
However,
help.
I do have an app called Drops, which I can't recommend enough. It's very visual. It's it'll teach you a word and what it means, and then it will throw different scenarios at you saying, so which one is this word, and you kind of link it to that picture, or you have to spell it, and some of it's kind of audible as well. So you get quite a mix for a variety of learning practices,
Styles.
really.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. And I've actually picked up quite a lot of Tagalog actually because of it.
Oh, wow.
And then somebody says to me, oh yeah, but if you go to Cebu, they speak in a different dialect there, and you go, okay, well, I'll just stay in Manila then.
Okay.
One language is enough, I think.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm still very much a beginner, but yeah, a little goes a long way, right?
You got to practice with somebody. You got to practice with Ria. You got to use your words. That's the hard part I always find, is to get past that word of, okay, I can say 5 phrases, but I'm so afraid to say them to anybody. Like,
Yeah.
And then they go, what? Like you got to get past that. That's like the second phase, I feel like.
I think if you can hold up a very basic conversation, that's a very good start.
Yeah.
The most basic thing I can say that has any more meaning than just a simple hello or thank you is nagsasalita ka ba ng Ingles, which is, do you speak English? Because if they say yes, the rest of it's easy for me.
You're like done. And you're likely, there's a high percentage that the answer is yes.
Well, yeah. And then I get lazy again. I don't need to learn the rest then, do I?
Yeah, that's the thing. You gotta just keep on trying. That's what when I go to China and speaking Mandarin, they don't always understand you because of the different tones and I just have to go, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna, like psyching yourself back up and keep
Is it
on
true
trying.
that you can say the same word in a different sort of intonation and it can mean something completely different?
It does.
Oh,
so
that's
like
confusing.
ma is like horse, and ma is like this isn't right, but like the, and ma. So there's 4 tones. There's like the straight tone.
No way.
There's the bendy tone. There's the rising tone, and then there's the falling tone.
That's just to confuse you more, isn't it? Gee, that's quite a lot.
It's singing. You have to just sing it.
That's true. And I suppose if you've got a great vocal range. What is your range, by the way? I never asked.
Well, I'm a lyric soprano, so I sing all the way up to like a high G above high C to, I have a 3.5 octave range. It's a lot for a soprano, but yeah, I worked on it.
Yeah, I bet. Does it take a lot of? It's weird. Yeah. Most of my channel on YouTube is sort of musical based, but I'm not a musician, so I have a lot of respect for artists doing their, performing and stuff. But I'd love to know the technicalities and just seeing how you train up to become that great, really.
Well, you with opera, you do these vocal exercises. You do these vocal exercises every day, no matter what, because if you don't do them for 2 weeks, then you lose the top part of your range. You can't sing as high. And everyone says that it's a bit athletic because it's like training your vocal cords. So like, you're going to the gym and you're making them strong. And if you have not gone to the gym for, a month, or then you got to just retrain, it's breath support. You have sing long notes for a long time. You really have to be able to support your breath for singing that long. And then there's tone. You want it to sound good. The tone of your voice. If it's so, want it to sound like that. You want the tone to be pretty. So you practice that part. And then if you want to sing high, you practice all these little staccatos. You practice all the little staccatos to try to get higher and higher. And then eventually you do.
Wow. How often do you train? Is it every day?
It is. Yes. I have a wonderful coach. And I do train with her every week, and I make sure I practice. You can't see my piano is right here behind me.
How long do you train for? Is it like a 30-minute session, or do you
It's like,
go?
yeah, it's like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I just go in front of the piano and I do all my exercises. And if I'm working on an aria, and I've been working on my new arias, my Mozart arias. So I keep working on different sections, and then I sing through the song, and then I, think about which part didn't go well. Maybe my breath support wasn't as good. So I wanted to make sure, you work on different pieces of it. And then I sing through the not all of them, just like one. Yeah. And
Okay.
every day when you do that, it's like, when you go to the gym, eventually, I don't know, statistically, I've heard this. I don't personally know.
So they say. I've never been.
I've heard.
I don't really go to the gym that often. It's very rare. Yeah. I used to have a personal trainer who used to come to my house. Is how lazy I am. So.
Oh no, my trainer, which I used to use, is now on Zoom. So we Zoom train now.
Oh wow.
That's how
Okay.
life is. This is where we've ended up. Like everything is Zoom.
Yeah, and you can argue and say that's quite normal now, but before lockdown, that was like my life for like almost a year. I used to have 2 or 3 sessions a week, and the trainer would come around and bring some gear, and we just kind of.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's good. It saves me time because I had a daughter as well last year, so it meant I had a bit of extra time with her, before and after the session, no driving and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been quite good. But I'm starting to get back into fitness again, actually, because I've started to see the pounds starting to creep up a little bit. I'm like, all right, Dan, cut the crap now. It's time to do something about it now.
Me and my sister are doing Peloton now. And I'm like, I don't want to join the cult of Peloton, but you know what? It's really awesome. So
it looks intense. I saw the ads on telly and I was like, oh yeah, you got to be the right kind of person to do that.
No, it isn't. No, I'm not that right kind of person at all. And it's fine. Started it with my sister because we were both like, oh my God, we got to do something. And it's just an app. So they have little 20-minute things you can run on your treadmill and whatever. Yeah. It's for everybody.
Interesting. I might think about it. I don't have a bike, so it might take me a while to get back on the saddle. Pun intended,
Yeah.
Because of your cultural outreach throughout your career, you've been embraced by Pakistani nationals, even performed for the president. So how did your music take you to Pakistan?
I was in the recording studio in Los Angeles, finishing up my 3rd album with Rich Balmer, and there was a massive earthquake in Pakistan. So my husband and his family is in Pakistan. His sister, his parents were at the time, his brother and their kids. And it was a horrifying earthquake, like 56,000 people died. It was really, really bad. And so Rafe, my husband's a doctor, and he said, I'm going to help with the relief fund. They were helping to bring stuff for braces and whatnot from the orthopedics in Boston. And so he was going, and I said, I'm coming too. And he was like, oh, well, how can you help us? And I said, I'm going to sing. And so I looked, they were having a charity event, a really large scale fundraising event in Lahore, Pakistan, at the same time he was going. So it was very serendipitous. It was this world festival. And so I went and I performed the music that I was writing in the studio at the time. And it was, more about the connection and fundraising. And then I aligned with a few brands at that time to help raise more funds for northern Pakistan, which is where the earthquake had been. And then we went to northern Pakistan, like Lahore is here, and then Islamabad, and then the northern part. And so so it was an incredibly impactful event, and Rafe was really the reason why I went in the first place, and I was so glad to. We had kind of learned all of these things about how music can bring people together. And at that time, 2013, Pakistan was very divided, and there was a lot of bloodshed and There was barriers over everything, and it was really in a really difficult place. And we asked Anwar Maqsood, who's the most famous lyricist in Pakistan. He's a Shakespeare. He's like the Shakespeare of Pakistan. We said, would you like to write a song with us that talks about the wonderful pieces of Pakistan and all of the wonderful parts of the different regions, and to help celebrate the unity of Pakistan rather than all of the disunity, like to celebrate the wonderful parts. And so he wrote these amazing lyrics. And we also worked with Ashud Mahmood, he runs the largest music school in Pakistan, and it's Eastern music, and he plays the tabla, and so he helped to write the arrangement of the song. And then we brought it to my producers in LA and to Berklee School of Music players to give it a more of a fusion, basically a Western and Eastern. And at that time, we filmed local musicians playing the erhu and the tabla, and the local musicians in the villages were also on the album. So they played on the song too. It fused in. And then on August 13th, it's like their 4th of July, we released the song, honestly not knowing what was, we're just going to release the song and hopefully people like it, or if they don't, it'll pass by, and they loved it. They loved his lyrics. It was just the right time and the right message. And so I started performing it everywhere. And it was really a wonderful, it has been, I think, when I look back on my life, that's going to be the thing that I feel like is most meaningful to me.
Yeah, I think that's great. A time of need, really, sort of lyrics of hope and like unity. The pretty much says it all for itself, doesn't it, really? So you have released songs in Urdu. Can you speak the language fluently, or is it something did you just learn what you needed to learn for the song?
जी थोड़ी सी उर्दू में बोल रही हूँ, थोड़ी सी खराब उर्दू में बोल रही हूँ. I learned enough to get by, enough to speak with our relatives, and not anymore, unfortunately. So if you are teaching a cool class on economics in Urdu, I am going to get 7 words, and that's as far as I can go. But I do, I do okay. But also Rafi was in the recording studio to make sure to honor Anwar Maqsood's lyrics. And also I've been doing different khawalis and ghazals, which I also don't want to get the inflection wrong, because you were talking about. So I always ask him.
Yeah, I suppose that's quite the tricky thing about different languages is getting the right pronunciation. Especially if you're releasing a song, it's sort of that fear, isn't it? Like, you can sing something that sounds great, but if it's not right, people will pick you out on that.
That's right. And I have found the Pakistani audience to be very forgiving and very, loving in that way. They kind of just like the sentiment. They appreciate it, which I love. But I also want to respect the authors and the writers and the musicians and the original poet.
I was just going to say, actually, it is like poetry, isn't it? You sort of want to try and capture that essence.
Well, the Urdu poetry has such a history too. Anwar Maqsood says the most beautiful things, but it had also been very subversive. So he will say things to government that only he can say because he's so damn funny. And you can't not love it, so he makes fun of corruption. He makes fun of the leaders. He speaks truth to power in ways that's incredibly effective because he is so funny, and people love to laugh that, and they go, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Wow, that's some confidence there.
Yes.
Imagine like the first time you told a joke or something, or said anything against them, you'd be like, oh, scary. It's good that they received it so well.
It's courageous. He is 82 now. He has been doing it his entire lifetime. And in Pakistan before, they used to switch out leaders. They'd have a coup every 6 months, 8 months, 2 years. So he has been through every different kind of leadership. And and just sitting with him in the living room, hearing about the stories of martial law, hearing the stories about like socialism, it's really amazing. Amazing.
Some fantastic stories there. I bet there's a load of life lessons from there as well, isn't there? Like so much he can sort of give as advice, and especially with the years that he is now.
Yes, he did. His truth to power has always had honesty to it, and people really have loved that. And he writes dramas. He writes the dramas. He writes comedies. He writes plays. But I don't think any books yet.
All right, there you go. Maybe propose the idea. Life lesson.
Yes, he needed your
So let's talk about your new documentary called Rhythm and Raga. Tell us a little bit about that series.
Oh, Rhythm and Raga was the making of the Unity song. And we filmed it in the villages of Pakistan with the instrumentalists, with their instruments that they had, grown up with or made or created. And it's the making of the song in Pakistan in a very turbulent time. So, one of the scenes is so in the beginning, we're just trying to create the song, and we're just physically writing the song and working with the musicians. And then as we're going, we're I was doing some live performances. And at that time I did a live cricket, cricket's huge in Pakistan. And so there was a massive cricket event, and they weren't sure if they were going to do it because they were worried about rioting and worrying about trouble. And, bombs, people would just, it was a really bad time, tough time, but they did do the event, and I was the halftime show. And halfway through singing, it was probably 30,000 people. The whole audience rushed where I was standing on the pitch. And so I'm looking out, and the TV camera is here, and I'm here, and I'm looking out, and the camera people can't tell, but the whole entire audience is running full on, booking it like, oh, I go, well, this is how I went, and it was good while it lasted, and Stampede's not a horrible way to go. And so it was just an event after that happened. Stuff like that happened all the time. It was just event after event. And it's just at that time, the way that people had to live, and the fact that we got the song finished was really a blessing, because it was needed, but it was really hard to get finished.
So the documentary, then, I might have missed that, but when was it? Is it released yet? Has it been out, or is it still upcoming?
It's been out. It came out in Pakistan, and so I have been meaning to get it back on Amazon. So, but it's basically, it was released on Pakistan TV because that was, what it was for.
Yeah, and how have people responded to that? Those who have seen it.
Well, they really understood. They liked it, I think. They understood how hard it was too. And their things are a lot better now in Pakistan, so that's wonderful. And I think they like it. Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so over your career, you've covered sort of several different genres of music and inspired many people around the world. And during the prep for the interview, I was listening to all your different albums, and I came across the Transformations one, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. I just found that, like, my mind just completely cleared, and it just opened up, and I just felt everything just calm. It's truly a great album. I really enjoyed listening to that. And the way I sort of described it was like a bit of a hybrid, I think, between traditional music and classical. And I was interested to find out if that was the case, and if that was sort of you gearing up for a return to classical in terms of your upcoming albums.
Yeah, it was the case. It was, when you were talking about loving soundtrack music, that's, soundtrack music with vocals, basically. And it's very orchestral and exciting. And I was working with a producer in Pakistan who loved to write movie soundtrack music. So he wrote to the movies in Pakistan that were released, and to India too. And so it was very big and spatial, and had these motifs. And I wanted to write an album about transformation, about spiritual transformation. And so we work together both in Pakistan many times, but also, by sending music too. And I'm really proud of that album. I think it's my most spiritually connected album.
Mm.
It has the lyrics are, about coming together, becoming one with yourself and spirituality, and I really love the big quality of it. The soundtrack of all of the different sounds melding with the lyrics and the vocals.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost like a sense of reflection as well. You can really sort of zone out and just really concentrate on sort of being in the moment. I think I love that. I thought it was brilliant. I really, really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. So more recently, you've gone back to your first love of classical music and have produced a new album, which we'll come back to in a moment. But with so much of your career focused on universal music and help spreading positive messages for people, why go back to classical, and why now?
Because it's a global pandemic and I can't go anywhere. That's why. But also it feels, I go with my gut. It has always been there for me. I feel like I do have a spiritual connection that when I write music, it's me and all of the spirits writing together. Like it feels always very driven by something greater than me. And that was the message that, this is a time of intense reflection. As musicians, everything stopped for us. All of my live shows, all of my international performances, and all of the performance halls closed, all the theaters closed. And so it was a time of great and intense reflection. And I could feel a lot of, there has been so much loss. There has been so much sadness and so much anxiety, and, people going through really, really painful times. And it was the feeling that I should try to write and sing music that is calming, that is spiritually calming and just physically calming. And I had done some research with my husband about classical music and music of the Baroque era specifically. And all of the statistics and studies have shown that Mozart specifically makes you feel calm. In a time of intense turbulence, he is he just helps to align your brain. And so, with myself feeling anxious, I started just recording classical opera songs from Mozart, from some of the Così fan tutte. And it was bringing me some solace. And so I said, it's interesting because I think a lot of other people kind of returned to their roots in some aspects of their life. You return to simplicity, return to your roots. And my roots were classical. And so I think that was also comforting to me. But I do know, just with statistics and with all of the studies show that Mozart realigns the brain waves to make them more in connection with each other, and really helps to relax all of the fiery goodness that's going on up there. And it brings peace. And I just wanted to bring peace.
I wonder, because obviously the music's so old. The data suggests, of course, that Mozart music is actually great for the brain. You just told us about that. But at the time it was written, he would never have known that's what it was going to be, or how his music was going to sort of influence people. I wonder what it is about the music then that kind of triggers those synapses around the brain to kind of open and connect and just kind of fly around. I don't think that's a real answer for that. It's just a kind of
it's I have looked into it and read a lot about it, because the so the cerebral cortex is the front part of your brain, and the front part has also connected with the cerebellum, and the cerebellum is where music is. So for example, where people, elderly people who have Alzheimer's, they can't speak properly and they don't have good memories, but they do have musical memories, and they can often sing complete songs. And when, I don't know if you've heard these studies, this is it's the primal part of your brain. And the musical memories that are there can be easily recalled from this part of your brain when this part of your brain kind of goes. So they say that listening to music helps even out the brain waves. There's the delta and the I don't know there's all the different brain waves. There's the really low ones, there's the higher ones that make you anxious and make you worried and thinking. And when you can level out the higher brain waves, it evens out and helps the brain be more productive.
That's interesting. Just thinking about our earlier conversation about language learning, you saying it's actually easier to learn a new language if you've got music to sort of sing to, or sing like you sing the alphabet. I wonder if that's to do with the same system there. Like if you sing it, you're more likely to remember it.
Yes, here you're memorizing with your language, but if you're singing, you're using your corpus callosum to align that with a musical, the musical part of your brain, which does help to memorize. So even people with stroke or with with brain damage, they use song as part of the therapy to help get to help bring, and then it helps bring functions.
Definitely.
Yeah,
it's quite a fascinating subject when you start diving into it, isn't it?
So it's really fascinating. I can speak as no authority on this topic at all, just as a fan, Yeah. Yeah.
So your new album, Schmid Mozart Arias, features 4 of Mozart's most beautiful arias and is already out on digital platforms now. So what was the inspiration behind the album, and in particular those 4 pieces?
These were my favorites, and I was going to go on and on and on forever, writing and singing. And I said, I'm going to just release these ones. And it also felt like the time. I just always go by intuition that, this is the time to let these out into the world, and whatever happens, happens. And, and I liked the light, fun quality of these ones. Una Donna is beautiful and lyrical, but they don't take themselves too seriously, and they're, fun, which I thought was a good theme, overall theme.
I was kind of hoping they'd connect to the whole brain functionality, like those 4 in particular, with sort of those sequence of songs might be the most optimum productivity, that kind of thing.
Well, I did.
You could just lie and go, yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. Well, I did do that study. So we worked with the Neuroscience Media Group, and I put on an EEG machine to read my brain waves. And so I sang Bhati Bhati, and then I looked at I was listening to Bhati Bhati, which is the first aria on the album, and then I was looking at specifically what my brain was doing. And we put this out on YouTube, but you can see the alpha waves, which is the highest waves, going like this, and then starting to slowly like get in line, I would say. And you can see a really obvious, it's very cool to see the obvious change. And it goes right as the song is going, and then by the end, all of them are pretty much aligned. It was amazing.
Wow.
To see that.
So does that vary person to person? Because I would, you've obviously got a love for classical, so your brain might naturally want to sort of align to that. But if you try it with different people, do they have the same response? Do you know?
They say it's cultural. So, for example, if you grew up in India and you listened only to raga and classical raga, it's different. It's an entirely different tonal structure. So that could have the same positive effects. But, Western researchers study Western music for the most part. But they do say that it is culturally driven. Yes.
Okay. Fascinating stuff, that.
It really is.
So on the album then, which orchestra did you work with to provide the music?
Well, I used the tracks of full orchestras. So the orchestras had played together, and then I added my vocal to it. Because the global pandemic, we couldn't play together, and even orchestras weren't playing at all at that time. So this was a workaround. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is opera as technically difficult as it sounds, or is that just simply it is? Basically, yes.
Fact, yes.
How much time was spent in the recording studio?
Too much time.
Days, weeks.
That's the kind of thing, that's what it drew me to it in the beginning, because it's like, you can just dig so deep and never have it the way you want it. And you dig even deeper, and it's like you have a little piece that's the way you want it. And then there's so much to it. There's the vocal quality, that's the tone quality. There's the interpretation of the music. It's the lyrics. It's, the relationship to the orchestra and following the line of this motif. And it goes very deep. And you have to, at some point, just say, this is what I am sending into the world. And, it's an interpretation.
Yeah, exactly. I always feel like with opera, it's quite hard to record the voice because the tones are so high. You have to kind of either stand back from the mic or it's a lot of technical. I think a lot more technical on the recording side than people might not realize.
Yes, that is really true. I have for 10 years tried to record in different studios across the world my classical opera voice, to very little success. Because you either are so far away from the mic is here, you can't hear the whole overtones of the voice has overtones. So this is the note that you're singing, and all of this is overtones. So that makes up part of the entire sound. So if you're this far away, you're only getting the ones that's directionally right into the microphone. But if you're this far away, you just blew out the mic because it's just too loud.
Yeah.
So it's an actual real issue. And I think someday a producer or an engineer will make an opera singer's microphone that can take the intensity of their voice. Because now what they do is the real way to do it is have the full orchestra surrounding the opera singer, and we all sing and play together as one so that you have uniformity of sound. But I do not think that is the optimal way to record vocals.
It's sort of counterintuitive, because the way I would, again, I'm not an expert, but the way I would do it is you layer it. So if you've got more than one instrument or more than one vocal, you just have to record each one separately. I suppose with an orchestra itself, you record that as one aspect of it.
A full uniform sound.
Yeah, but with the voice, you sort of have to mix it.
Yeah, the voice is supposed to be absolutely in the middle of that sound. I mean, traditionally, there's a lot of traditions in opera in the classical world that I'll be happy to leave behind. And the misogyny might be the very first one. Yeah, but that it isn't the most optimal way to record with the singer surrounding or within the orchestral parts. But that's what they do.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I guess that's why when you go and see an opera live, you get a much better experience. Or do you? Because if you're on a stage, I mean, do you still you still have a mic, right? So you'd still have that same. You don't.
There's supposed to be no microphones in opera. There
Wow.
secretly are some, but they're very secretly, and they're just like to get the full sound, because it's supposed to be a uniform sound that everybody is playing. Everybody's equal. Everybody's equal. The cello player, the violin, the timpani, and the vocal are all equal members.
So in that regard, then, is there sort of like an optimum sort of space in which to perform opera? Like, is obviously the larger the venue, the more your voice travels. Maybe it doesn't hit the back of the room as you'd hoped, or perhaps the shape of the room might alter acoustics.
Yes. Well, there is a whole subcategory of people who get a lot of money to design the perfect acoustics for an opera hall, a classical concert arena, because it is like this bounces off this. It's very acoustical science.
Wow.
It's an acoustical science.
There's a lot that goes into it. A lot of engineering, really, isn't there?
Yes, it's really. And so that's why when the opera singer is sitting of course, their voice has to project to the past, to the last seat in the auditorium. And that's the training. That's why it's so hard. You have to gain that much physical strength in your vocal cords. They're just these tiny little things back here, but you have to be able to create that sound that hits the very back of the arena, and also be musical, and also be, integrating all of the, the composer's feeling and emotion of that scene. And so, yeah.
In a way, it sort of reminds me of acting in a way. You've got to, obviously, like you say, with the lyrics and the conductor, you've got to be able to perform and tell the story. But it is quite an emotive piece of artistry as well, is opera. It's very much, it's just singing poetry, isn't it, I guess?
Yes, and it's not even your language. So if it's Italian, you have to be able to really understand.
Good point. Yeah, good point. Is that tricky as well? Do you learn just enough to sing the songs, or can you speak Italian as well?
It's better if you know more, and the more you do it, the more you kind of. Italian is not the hardest language to learn. It's similar to the Romance language. It kind of sticks with you a little bit once you've been singing opera enough Italian. You kind of understand. It naturally happens. I don't know if that's true for everybody, but it helps with the interpretation. And there's that, it's always that joke that the opera singers are terrible actors, and it's because sometimes they really are, because they've spent so much time working on the artistry of their musical instrument that they really didn't spend as much time developing the character. Nowadays, I feel like it's different. There are some amazing actors and storytellers and emotive beings that happen to have amazing voices. So, it's a hard balance to get.
Do you have any funny anecdotes you can share with us during the project?
For Mozart?
Yeah, for Mozart.
Yes. Well, I started off recording in a recording studio it's a really nice studio. I love it. It's right by my house. And I was able to get in a few. It was me and the producer, the engineer, basically. So I was, with COVID protocols, I was like, we can, just work this out, the two of us. And then they closed.
Oh.
So they closed because there was an outbreak, and so they closed the entire studio, and they're not open yet. They're not even open yet. So I don't know. I think there was a bunch of different stuff, but that was a difficult thing to get through. So I bought his equipment and put it into my house. And now I have all of the equipment for a really cool recording studio upstairs. And that's how I finished the album. It was like a real resilience in a COVID protocol studio. It was great to be able to finish it where I didn't really know if I could.
Do you think now you have all the equipment that you would produce more music and kind of get into a rhythm? Especially with the lockdown and stuff, you'll be able to just crack them out bit by bit.
Yes, we've been experimenting with EDM music lately. It's been a little fun. Yeah. Yes, anything's possible. Like a lot of people have home studios now.
That's true. This is my home studio.
I was going to say that microphone looks very professional. Is that a Neumann?
It's I can't remember what it is now.
Oh, I don't know.
It's either a Rode NT2A.
A Rode. Okay. Yeah.
I was looking. Where's it telling me? There's actually a big icon on. You can see it here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rode NT2A.
Okay, that's awesome.
Weirdly, I bought it because I mean, for a variety of reasons. Partly for doing these podcasts, partly for doing voiceover work. It's great for meetings, but also for singing. I can't sing that well, by the way. I just do it for laughs.
For fun. That's what it's all for. It's all for fun.
I'm not going to crack open my vocal cords today, but
no, okay.
There's them on my YouTube channel if you want to take a look.
Awesome.
And obviously, from a critique point of view, you'll probably notice there's a bit of auto tune in there, but don't tell anyone.
Really? Oh no, there's no. Yeah. I didn't hear anything. No, that is industry standard to have auto tune on every song. Even if it sounds like they don't have it, they do. It's a secret.
I've heard the same secret. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll cut that bit out of the edit just for keeping it a secret. So we talked about the science about the Arias in terms of the brain activity. Do you hope listeners will take more away from the album than what the science says? I
want it to be relaxing. And if it's for you, then it's for you. And if it's not for you, then it's not for you. People have such immensely strong feelings about classical music, but I feel like nowadays people are using music as like a tool, and particularly classical music can be used as a tool. So if you want to clean your whole house and you don't have the focus, or you use classical music to just, chill your brain out. Or if you want to study for your test and you just really want to have a calm, clear brain, then you can use classical music as a tool. If you're feeling anxious, they did another interesting study about people who are in the middle of an anxiety attack, and classical music was one of the things that helped to calm their brain. I know people who listen to classical music all night while they're sleeping, and I feel like it's a nice tool.
Ria said to me actually that she listens to your album when she goes to sleep.
That's awesome. That makes me so happy.
Where I said that, I realized it didn't sound very positive, but
it came in the positive.
Most complimentary way possible. Yeah.
It is absolutely positive. And I also hold no connection to where my music goes and what it does. It's out there, and however it feels close to you, or if it does or if it doesn't, it's best as a musician to let it go, And I just know that for me, it's relaxing in the nighttime. You have all these thoughts. You're like, I have to go to dinner, and I have to do, and it just helps you to, align the brainwaves.
Yeah. So what is your takeaway based just from your album? Like when you listen to it throughout, what do you feel? How do you respond to that? Is it the same way?
No, it isn't, because as an artist, we are so self-critical. I hear every little thing that I want to change. I hear every little thing that I liked, but I could have it's still in the place where it's totally in my head of, the creation process of so after a while, I will be able to listen to it and enjoy it as like an art form, but it takes a while for me.
It makes me wonder, actually, when it comes to live performances, we've already talked about how, a live performance is better because you get a thicker range, I guess, of the vocal cords and stuff. But when it comes to recording it, you mentioned you were there for hours, days recording, trying to perfect every moment.
Yes.
Does that in some way put more pressure on you for live performance, knowing that you were trying to get that perfection that you've been doing takes on for the recording in one sitting? And does that Does that
Yes, it does. It totally does. It exactly does. Because you have to make it sound like the album.
yeah.
And it doesn't always sound like the album.
So how
It
do you deal with that
what?
extra pressure then? Because you've only got one take of doing it.
I mean, you let it go. Some things you just let go, or you stress out about it. Also, that happens, you know. I have to record, or I have to perform Una Donna in on Easter. So I have been working on getting it beautiful in one take, however it comes, you know.
Mm.
So after this, I'm going to be again working on practice. There's so much practice involved, and then the day of, I really just try to let it go because I want to be just the vehicle for the music, right? Not the, if you get in your own head about it, you really lose the performance aspect of it. You want it to be enjoy. It's a gift, right? It's just you're the vehicle, and however it happens, however it comes out, it's just what was meant to be that day, and I try to be at peace with that because that's the best way to be a storyteller, you
Mm.
know.
Yeah, and I think that also goes with people who mime as well. It's like, yes, you can mime, but you don't get that raw feeling, I think. I think having a live performance, however it sounds, it is that moment, and like you say, you're the vehicle on that day. So I think people can just relate to you better and connect with you better. And I think that's probably valued higher than actually how you perform it.
Yeah, you want to be lost in the moment, you know, and you want to just be, yes, yeah. And also people are more forgiving when you're in person, and unless it really goes to hell, which also happens, you know, but people understand that it's not going to be exactly as the album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing. I mean, personally, when I hear, like, even just going back to Star Wars again, I went to watch the orchestra live
Oh
performing
yeah.
to like the movie and stuff, and you compare
Oh,
that to the
that's
album. Yes, it's the same song. Yes, you can kind of hum along to it, but you expect it to be different, and it does sound different. And I love that it does because it gives you sort of like a refreshing take on how that
interpretation.
music is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, they're going to do crescendo in this section, and this section is going to be quieter. They held this part longer, and the conductor's interpretation is different.
And actually, I love the instruments as well because they're instruments that you don't pick up on the album. When you see them and hear them being performed, you go, "Oh wow!" So that's because there's sometimes I even watch the orchestra, and you see the violinists going like the clappers just,
Yeah.
and I'm going, I can't really hear them, but I know they're doing something. And then sometimes they
Yes.
come in and you get their little solo piece, and you go, I would never known that was the instrument,
Oh,
and I
yes.
just love that whole insight into it.
Finding out. Yes. Yes. And
Yeah.
there's a person there playing every single one of the pieces, and it's all coming together, you know?
It's just a wonderful little journey to go on, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, along with your music career and your clear vision of unity around the world, especially during these testing times, what else are you working on?
I don't know yet. I wanted to do a second Mozart album, but I'm also been very much into women composers. One of the things that came out was through my getting back into classical music was, the depth of misogyny. The women didn't get, women composers didn't get the same opportunities, and even today, there's only now just one or two conductors that is a woman. So as an artist, I would love to bring classical female composers to light. And so that was something that I had been thinking about and talking to my coach and my manager about, doing something that is related to celebrating classical women composers.
So you've recently been awarded the Inspiring Woman of the Year award in Karachi. Were you surprised to be awarded the honour?
I thought that was so wonderful. Yes, I was totally surprised. That was really great, and also because that place, the Rotary Club is different in Karachi. It's a huge organization, traditionally run all by men, for years, of course, and attended by men, business owners. And this year, the vice president is a woman, and I think that she really. And there's way more women involved in that program too. So I also felt so honored to be among such wonderful, to be appreciated by such wonderful business leaders of Pakistan. That was so great.
Well, congratulations on the award.
Thank you so much.
Interesting you mentioned actually that more women on the panel and stuff, if you like, because like we were just talking about, women now are getting more empowered with different job roles and stuff, and I think that's great that equality is starting to catch up, I suppose, with modern times. So yeah, it's really great stuff.
Yes, and Pakistan is catching up too. They have had a really wonderful journey that I've been following both on Instagram and on in person in Pakistan. Women are really becoming so much more comfortable using their voice towards, speaking more strongly out about things. And in Pakistan, there's been a really a beautiful truth to power moment with women leaders in Pakistan that has been incredible to watch.
Why do you think that change might be then? Is that because I know with the dawn of social media, there's a lot more awareness now, and people are campaigning and protesting, and so do you think that's made an impact in Pakistan?
I really do, because they would have a women's march in Pakistan now. They had a International Women's Day recently. They have a lot more influence from. But yes, social media, they've seen how women around the world have used their voice, to speak truthfully. And I've seen it, the same thing happening in Pakistan. It's been really incredible to watch.
One thing I'd love to do, I don't know how it's going to work quite so, is a performance, if we're able to get a performance out of you today. But I don't know, because obviously with the recording and stuff, it's quite tricky, isn't it? So I don't know whether it's something, if you've got like a pre-recorded video that we may be able to show, or whether it's something we can do live.
In 11 minutes, I am recording a live recording in my other dining room, which has now become a performance hall.
Oh, wow.
So that is perfect timing. I can give you that.
That would be amazing. Yes, please.
Yes.
Scuola
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time. I really enjoyed chatting to you, learning more about your career and all the science behind the Mozart arias and stuff. It's been fantastic chatting with you.
Oh, thank you. Likewise, it's been really fun.
Good.
Yeah, I
And I
appreciate it.
wish you all the very best with the upcoming album.
Thank you so much.
No
Thank
worries.
you.
Thank you very much. Bye
Take
bye.
care. Yes, thank you. Okay, bye-bye.